Derbyites, we are back once again to talk about nothing better than the Emmys. Like, honestly, is there a better awards show on the planet than the Emmys? I don't think so. Um, and there's so much amazing TV these days. Like, literally every category could have 20 nominations and it would still not be enough. But anyway, that's a whole other discussion. I'm here to introduce, first of all, three of my favorite people on the planet. We have future Lieutenant Governor of Virginia, Charlie Bright. We
Um,
have Richard Thomas's number one fan, Tony Ruiz. And we have equal first best Australian at Gold Derby, Matt Noble. Welcome, guys.
Today.
It's so good to see you. And we are firstly going to talk about the comedy categories. I am really, I've got to say, I'm kind of excited about comedy for the first time in a while. I mean, I was kind of excited about it last year, but there's so much good stuff on at the moment. And I want to kind of go through that now. And I think the best way to do it is to talk about what we generally think are locks and then talk about what's left over that might break through. So before I ask you all, I have a feeling that in comedy series, there's probably 5 locks. You probably don't agree, but that's okay. I think that Ted Lasso, Hacks, Only Murders in the Building, Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, and Barry are making it into comedy series, which means that we have 3 open slots. And those 3 are pretty competitive. And I can already tell you what I think of those 3 are, but I'm not going to. So I want to go to Charlie first. What do you think about best comedy series?
So I think you're right about there being 5 locks. For some reason I feel like I don't know, maybe I don't know why, but for some reason I feel like Only Murders in the Building is kind of on shaky ground. But the 5th one that I do feel very certain about predicted there is Abbott Elementary. That show has really it's found an audience. It is all about this. It is a show that puts network television back in a place of importance with television comedy, which we all know it has not had for quite a few years. So I would put Abbott Elementary in there, and then it's just a total free for all. I do have Only Murders of the Building in my lineup. But then you also have, I'm putting in there previous nominee, What We Do in the Shadows, which will be airing its new, which is going to be starting its new season very soon. So while voting's been going on, all the press has been going on for the new season, and it's a bit basic, but I'm putting Curb Your Enthusiasm in number 8.
Wow. You know what? Before we go on to the other 2 guys, I don't have any of those 3 shows in my top 8. That is so interesting. That's so cool.
You are very wrong.
Well, maybe I am, but that's the whole point of this. That's the whole point, so we can talk about it. So I think, like, I have not fallen in love with Abbott Elementary like everybody else has, and maybe I'll revisit that. That's my bad. But and What We Do in the Shadows and Curb Your Enthusiasm, both absolutely contenders, but I don't have any of those. So what about you, Matt?
Yeah, I think, like, for people who love their, I don't know, Marvel crossovers and things, I've got that vibe for the comedy race this year because, like, I feel like we've got contenders from the 2021 Emmys coming up against contenders from the 2020 Emmys coming up against contenders from the 2019. Like, so like this real crossover of Emmy seasons because of the nature of COVID and television these days is that there used to be a day when you have the same shows every year competing against each other. But last year, there were a lot of shows that took a year off. So now we've got shows like The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel and Barry going head-to-head with Ted Lasso and Emily in Paris and the flight attendant and things. So we've got and then you got Only Murders in the Building and Abbott Elementary that are brand new. So I generally agree with you, Rob, with the ones that are looking safer or more locked into this category. I'm with Charlie that Curb Your Enthusiasm. It's sort of, for me, I know a lot of people aren't predicting it, but a somewhat safe bet since it's been nominated for every season since season 2 of the show. So I just think it's something that there is industry support for and Academy love for. I guess there's always there can always be a year that goes against that people drop out of the Emmys, but until it does, I'll probably keep predicting it. And the other shows I've got in mind at the moment that like could easily sub out, because it is a bit like a revolving door of comedy show contenders, is I'm wondering if a few shows like The After Party on Apple TV or Our Flag Means Death might be able to break in with all the Taika Waititi attention at the moment, based on the new Thor coming out as well, and just sort of, yeah.
Wow. Again, you've mentioned some really good shows, and still none of the three that I have in the bottom of my 8. So, Tony, what about you?
I'm actually going to go a little bit farther. I don't even know, not even sure that there are 5 locks. I would actually say that Only Murders in the Building is a lock, because it's airing its 2nd season right now. It debuts as we're recording this. And so I think an early word on it is that it's just as strong as the 1st season. So, the fact that it is front and center during voting, I think bodes well for it. I think one of the main 5 that you mentioned that could be precarious is Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. I still have it getting in, but the 4th season was not necessarily as universally loved. And I think that could open the door for some other words. I agree with Charlie. I think Abbott Elementary is absolutely getting in. I haven't seen critical raves for a network comedy like this in a long time. I also have What We Do in the Shadows, but I could easily see the one that I'm kind of going out on a limb for is Reservation Dogs, which is
That's great.
This kind of like just absolutely stunning, beautiful, hilariously funny at times, and yet totally heartwarming show that is the kind of like critical fave that in an expanded field like this, I think could get in. I also think that there's room for things like, say, the new season of Atlanta, or you could also, I think, make a case for something, say, like The Flight Attendant. The 2nd season of The Flight Attendant could get in. But the funny thing that stands out to me about all of this is I can remember the years where we were all just like, oh God, it's like this comedy series, and then who else is going to be nominated? But now we're in a position where there are so many viable contenders. It's an embarrassment of riches in a lot of ways.
It's a bloodbath is what it is.
Well, some people say riches, some people see blood. It's kind of a Game of Thrones thing. So
some people see riches made of blood.
Right.
We're not talking about Rupert Murdoch. So.
And what I said about Taika Waititi, he's also a producer of Reservation Dogs, so that could
he's gonna have a really good Emmys, I think.
I also just want to say that I think another show that could potentially, I think this is a bubble show that has found kind of like a cult following, but it's another broadcast show, and that's Ghosts.
Yes.
I think that show has proven itself to be extremely popular. Yes. And so how awesome would it be to get like multiple broadcast shows and not just like a standard one?
Yeah, like you remember back in the day when it was like there might have been one cable show and everything was broadcast. These days, to get a broadcast in there is really special. So my other 3 were Atlanta, The Great, and going out on a limb for Cobra Kai, because it did get a nomination last time. I am going to stick with that for now, but I'm hearing what you're saying on Abbott Elementary, and if I had to remove one, it would probably be Cobra Kai, but that season that it just had, season 4, was its strongest, and it did get a nomination for season 3. So it's not out of the question.
So I'm curious about something, Rob. I'm going to ask you something. I'm going to turn the tables on you on this one. Okay. So what is making you predict that The Great will get in when there is so much competition to get in, when it couldn't even get in last year?
That's a really good point, because I've been thinking about this more than probably a healthy person should. And that is, I just think The Great didn't break through as much as it could have in its first season as much as it has now. And if you look at some of the precursors, it's won the WGA twice in a row. It's gotten nominations for the Costume Designers Guild and art directors, which it didn't get last time because it just didn't seem to have enough. It wasn't known enough. It wasn't seen enough. And and I just think Nicholas Hoult and Elle Fanning have also made a showing at the SAGs. I just think below the line, I feel The Great is going to do quite well. And I think that might push it into this race when they've.
It's got a really good shot too for Gillian Anderson and guest actress.
Yeah, I have a feeling it's going to really, really pop this season at the Emmys. And so I'm putting it in 7th, but I'm still shaking on it. And I think at the moment it's on 25-1 odds. So it's actually, I guess I'm not alone there, and there's other people who agree, but I'm not sure. That's my reasoning. So good question. And with Atlanta, it's always been a favorite and it's always been nominated. And I just don't see why it wouldn't be nominated again. Although I feel the buzz maybe is slightly dropped off on that show because there's so much content these days. But why wouldn't that be nominated again? Why are none of you predicting Atlanta? I'm really curious.
It doesn't seem to be in the zeitgeist the way it was.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem to necessarily have the impact that it did in its first 2 seasons. And I think this is a case where maybe the long break without it, where if you have a show like Barry that seemed to have had that long break and have, flourished with it, Atlanta, I'm not so sure. So it's a tricky one.
I felt that way too, which is why I've been umming and ahhing. I mean, like, I thought, as for the locks, like Ted Lasso, Hacks, Barry, absolutely, like, I've never seen raves for those shows like I have for those 3 in the comedy races. And Only Murders really surprised a lot of people. And that's just, I can't imagine that not making it in. And then, of course, Marvelous Mrs. Maisel has always been a huge favorite at the Academy. And I can't imagine that not making it either. But you've all really raised some really interesting shows. Flight Attendant, I don't see why that can't push through. I really hope that Peacemaker can do just the unthinkable and make it in, because that is such a good show, isn't it, Charlie?
Well, could we actually make that our transition to comedy actor?
Yes.
Because in my number 1 slot, I have John Cena.
Do you really have him in your number 1
yes,
slot?
I do, because it's my no guts, no glory thing for the nominations. And I think that if he gets in, he is a top tier contender to win. If he gets in, the nomination is the biggest hurdle, though, because I think we have 2 former champions battling it out here with insanely killer material. In Bill Hader's case, literally killer material, and Jason Sudeikis for Ted Lasso. So, I mean, it's one of those things where I think if you have both of those, where they're going to be at such the same level that you could have a third contender sneak in and win. And I think also the thing to keep in mind about John Cena is he's a movie star, and he's been willing to latch himself back to television, which does buy a lot of goodwill with some people.
And you know what? He's so freaking good in this show.
So funny on the show. He's
vulnerable
so good
and funny, and just, I have no words for how good he is. Before we move on quickly, I'll just list these shows that are also in contention, because there's so much. Russian Doll, Insecure, The Other Two, Pen 15, Afterlife, Blackish, Brooklyn Nine-Nine, Julia, The Chair, Better Things, The Wonder Years, Harlem, Dave. Like, I could go on and on. There's so much. Schmigadoon. Like, there's so much good stuff. I feel really bad that so many of them are not even going to get anything because it's just so competitive.
There are 13 shows that got nominated the last time they were in contention for this category.
Wow.
And that doesn't count any of the new shows.
That's crazy. This is too much. It's giving me heartburn. Stop.
Yeah.
Anyway, going back to Charlie's very good segue. John Cena, I don't even have him in my top 6.
I do.
I can't see it happening. But okay, so who are the locks there, Tony? Who are the locks into comedy actor?
I honestly see, this is the tough thing about this category, because now we're down to, potentially 6 nominees. I actually think there are 4 locks. I think Sudeikis is a lock. I think Bill Hader is a lock. I think Steve Martin and Martin Short are both locks. And then that just leaves 2 spots. Right now, I do have John Cena in. I also have Anthony Anderson, but I think I could be persuaded. I actually feel more comfortable with John Cena than I do with Anthony Anderson. I think that there's so much that could weigh into those different slots. I mean, I could easily see, say, Nicholas Hoult getting in there. I could easily see, Don Cheadle was kind of a perennial nominee in this category. So, the rule about Don Cheadle is I'm going to predict Don Cheadle until I have reason not to.
Yeah.
I could see Larry David in here. So
okay, that's fascinating.
right now,
Matt,
I have Anthony Anderson and John Cena.
What about you, Matt? Apart from those 4 locks, I'm assuming you have them. Who are in your last 2 slots?
Yeah, I'd probably say like Martin Short's like probably a little bit less of a chance than Steve Martin of getting in. I've got them both. They're in my 3 and 4 slots, so I'm not sort of going in a totally different direction there. But I do think if for whatever reason we're overestimating the only murders love and only one of them sneaks in, I think it'll be Steve Martin. That all being said, I at the moment have a sort of safe-ish choice, Donald Glover, who I think for the first 2 seasons of Atlanta was probably in that second spot of almost winning the category, the second or third slot there. So sort of feel like he's some respect and stuff. And in my 6th slot, I got Rhys Darby from Our Flag Means Death. I think that's such a lovely, fun performance that's just a clear comedy, but also got real heart to it. And he's, was fantastic in Flight of the Conchords as well, which was an Emmy nominated show. So again, it's a bit of a limb, that one, and who knows, like I could see myself very easily subbing out either of those 2 for Don Cheadle, as Tony says. He's been nominated. There's been no support for Black Monday at the Emmys. I think particularly for that first season was so brilliant. It's a shame that didn't get some more nominations, but he has been nominated for each season. So it shows that even though there might not be a lot of attention on that show, people still tick his name on the ballot or enjoy that performance. So there's sort of the 3 names I'm tossing around at the moment. Anthony Anderson is in the mix too.
I love your Rhys Darby choice. I'm hopefully manifesting it to happen.
I'd love to pick one of the What We Do in the Shadows guys too, but it's just hard to know which one to pick and things. I think that's a real struggle with that races. They all sort of seem like leads and supportings, and which then when you pick one, that I think that makes it tricky. It's
such a natural ensemble show that it's really hard to differentiate it.
But they're all super deserving. Like,
absolutely.
Great nominations. Yeah.
Great.
I actually think if there was one from What We Do in the Shadows to get in, I think it would be Kayvon Novak. I think would probably be because he has that great storyline where he goes to the alternative vampire house with Free Summer, and that was just absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
So have we not? What about you, Charlie? Who's in your top 6 that we maybe haven't mentioned yet?
I am actually a bit on. Matt is actually clued into what I have, because I do have Hader and Sudeikis, but beyond that, I really do feel like it's up for grabs because we don't really know what's going to happen with Only Murders at the Building, because it's a twofer. And right now, I do have Steve Martin making it in, but I don't have Martin Short making it in. So you're actually on that right track there. We're on that same sort of wavelength there, Matt. And as I said, I have John Cena in my number 1 slot, and in number 4, and then the other 2 I have Donald Glover and Don Cheadle.
Okay, that's fascinating. So,
but I mean, Anthony Anderson does. I feel more confident about Anthony Anderson getting in here than I do about Blackish getting into series.
Yeah, he's made it so many times, and he's so good.
And at this point, it's one of those things where you just say to yourself, why would they stop now?
Yeah. I think the only reason would be, I guess, that there's so much competition, but I just took out Donald Glover, probably stupidly, put in John Cena, because I agree that I just cannot not predict him. I have Nicholas Hoult in the last slot because I'm one of the people who believe the Great is really going to excel this season. But there's so many other people like Jake Johnson and Minx is doing quite well in our odds. Larry Gervais. I'm not sure why Ricky Gervais has never been nominated for Afterlife, because it's a beautiful performance and there's a lot of tears and it's very heartfelt and very funny. And
I think it's not
brilliant.
what people are looking for in comedies right now. I mean, wasn't its first season eligibility for the first year of the pandemic?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, I have a feeling that people were just as brilliant as it might have been, and they're willing to go with things that are a bit heavier, but things that are just like pure tear-inducing they're just like, no, we don't. That's not what we're looking for from comedy right now.
It has to be the reason, and I have a feeling that could be something to do. Personally, I just think as brilliant as Atlanta is, it is slightly lacking in the funny, and that could be something that hurts it in this.
And also I think that Donald Glover is absent from a lot of the new season of Atlanta.
Yes.
He's not as much of a presence as he was even especially in the first year. He was almost a supporting actor on his own show. And he still won. But this season, he's completely absent from a lot of episodes.
They've really taken this. It's like a work of art. That first episode with the boy who gets put in the foster home with the two white lesbians, I just thought that was just brilliant. That's hilarious. There's a lot of other people. I think Andy Samberg should be nominated.
He should.
He should be a winner for that show.
That should be in the comedy series race. They had a fantastic last season of that show, and they've been so consistent for so many years. That should be one of those regular shows that always pops in. So it'd be lovely to see them get some recognition, any recognition for their final season, which was so
very welcome.
So good.
Udkarsh from Ghosts is great. Drew Tarver from the other two is like phenomenal. He should be there. Kenan Thompson was nominated last time, and now it looks like he probably won't repeat. So there you go. The two leads from Cobra Kai probably won't make it in. I think they deserve to be there. And who else is there? Am I missing anyone in particular that you think? Like Keegan-Michael Key from Schmigadoon is great. Dave Bird, Dave. I mean, there's just so many great contenders. I hope I'm not missing anyone in particular, but we probably do have to move in. What about Defera Lunatai from Reservation Dogs? If they really go for that show, why not him?
Well, and you got some other like big names you might have in that race. Ted Danson, Mr. Mayor. Ted Danson's just a name that is been so consistently great on television for so long. You've got people like Stephen Merchant and Christopher Walken from The Outlaws, which was a great series, and those names have some sort of credibility in the television and acting well.
I
would throw in, if on a wish list, Danny McBride and John Goodman, especially for the second season of Righteous Gemstones.
Oh, really? I haven't seen it, but okay, I'll take your word for it, and I might try to check it out. Let's move on to Best Comedy Actress. Of course, we're not talking about who's winning, but we're talking, I guess, about locks, and Jean Smart has this locked in. I also think that probably Rachel Brosnahan, previous winner, is probably locked in as well. And I guess Quinta Brunson is locked in, given the popularity of that show. Other than that, I don't know if we have many more locks here. I think there's 3. So apart from those 3, Matt, what do you think? Because I've got my list, but I'd really like to know, because this category I think is a little bit more up in the air than some of the others.
Yeah, I have Brunson in my lineup. I don't have it quite as a lock, just because I'm probably with the Emmys, I always get a bit more trepidation with first time contenders and shows, and
Yeah.
like just going, oh, I just don't know how that's going to land with voters. It's sort of a bit of an untested, we're in uncharted waters, but yeah, I've got her in my lineup. Look, I have, who are the other three? I've got Kelly Kuko, the flight attendant. Just think she was sort of probably the runner-up last year, so I think she's in there. I think Selena Gomez. I think there's going to be quite a bit of Only Murders in the Building love. I think Steve Martin and Martin Short are both getting in, and I actually felt she, like, you know, I had no
She's the
expectations for her.
surprise.
She
Yeah.
was great.
She's so
and
good.
a completely different tone to them, but it works so well, and they complement each other so well. So I think she's a big part of why that show worked as well as it did. A bit more of a nuanced performance than the Steve Martin and Martin Short that are broader, so that could maybe hamper her. And I've got Elle Fanning for The Great Rob. There you go.
Oh well, there's something.
I do too.
There you go.
Oh, good. Yeah, so I guess Tony and Matt, maybe
Huzzah.
I think you're probably thinking if The Great does anything, it'll get Elle Fanning. I think that's probably where you guys are at. And I hear you. I think she's the strongest contender. I have her in fourth. My other two were Issa Rae, and I did have Sarah Lancashire, but I've just put in Quinta Brunson instead just now, because I've been a bit slack on Abbott Elementary because I haven't really had a chance to watch much of it. So I'm definitely going to get onto that. Charlie, do you have anyone else in your six that we haven't mentioned yet?
Yeah, actually. So I do have the three locks that you mentioned. I do have in fourth, I got Issa Rae. The fact that she finally was able to break in after years of predicting her and she would never get in, and then finally in 2020 she did. So I have her for the final season of Insecure. In fifth, I do have Sarah Lancashire for Julia, and in sixth, I got Sandra Oh for The Chair. She's perennial Emmy favorite, and she's made it in at other places. She got in at SAG, which does have actual overlap with the Academy. It's weird that none of us are saying Tracy Ellis Ross for Blackish.
No, I can't handle this.
I do agree with you that of the three things for the great series comedy actor and comedy actress, I do feel like Elle Fanning is probably the strongest chance, even though I don't have her in there. And yeah, but that's the one that I'm that I'm sticking my neck out for. Though I would love it if I could, if I had the confidence to predict Bridget Everett for Somebody Somewhere.
Yes.
That's not. But I don't think that's going to happen.
I haven't even seen that yet. Oh, that looks so good. Tony, are we missing anyone so far?
You know, all the people you said are people I've taken in and out of my predictions throughout. Right now, what I have is, you know, Smart, Brosnahan, Cuoco, Gomez, Fanning, and Brunson. Although I think, you know, the one that I'm least confident about is Fanning, not because I don't think she deserves to be there, because she does, but I can just see them going so many different ways. And the fact that Sandra Oh made it in for The Chair at SAG is certainly telling. I also think that, you know, this could be a place for Pamela Adlon. She's been nominated in this category before, and the final season of Better Things was a masterpiece.
And that's I blame you, Tony. Like, you're the one that said, Rob, come on, man, you're sleeping on this show, watch it. And I did, and you were right. It's brilliant.
And I also think, you know, I love the Bridget Everett love, because I think Somebody Somewhere is just, it's something special if you haven't seen it. And I never will count out Grace and Frankie. I will never count out Lily Tomlin or Jane Fonda. So, I mean, we're talking about a couple of slots here, so really anything could go.
It's crazy.
No one said Natasha Lyonne.
Natasha Lyonne,
yeah.
She's phenomenal.
Well, and she writes, she directs, she produces. She's all over that show that did very well in its first season.
It really did, didn't it? You're right. And then Cecily Strong in Schmigadoon, she's so good in that. I'm just looking at the list, like Natasha Dimitriou. If we're talking about what we do in the shadows, she is like, to
She's
me,
great.
she's probably the best character in the whole show. And that's just my opinion. And then we've got other people like Haley Steinfeld and Dickinson. She's never been nominated, but I mean, if anyone's seen Dickinson, it's really phenomenal, and she is the best in that show. Vanessa Bayer, I love that for you.
That's one to keep an eye on too.
Yeah, Renee Elise Goldsberry in Girls 5 Ever, Rose McIver in Ghosts, Amy Schumer in Life and Beth, Tiffany Haddish in The After Party. Like, come on, like, really? We're not even talking about that. And the
Pen
list goes
15.
on. Pen 15.
Maya Erskine.
Yeah.
Maya Erskine. And look, you know what? Seriously, if it was up to me in voting, I would really honestly vote for Rose Byrne in Physical. She is so good in Physical. That is such a good show. And I don't see that happening, but she deserves to be there. And Helene York in the other two. So, like, honestly, and Jasmine Cephas Jones in Blind Spotting. Like, this is a crazy good category. Good, even Megan Good reminded me from Harlem. Isla Fisher Wolf, like me. So anyway, we've got a lot here to chew on, but unfortunately there are 6 slots, and hopefully one day they'll open it up to like 10.
And look, Haley Steinfeld from Hawkeye as well. Like, it's really interesting that Marvel, like, they're now competing in the comedy series races and not the mini series races. So you got some Hawkeye contenders too. If Marvel's going to break through here, it's probably going to be through that show.
So look, unfortunately we're running out of time, but what I thought we would do for the 2 supporting categories, if you could just, all 3 of you, just tell me, like, look out for blah, like, because we know who the locks are and it's so competitive, it's ridiculous. So, like, for example, in comedy supporting actress, I'm thinking, let's not sleep on Molly Shannon in the other 2. If the show's going to do anything, it might be that. Even though Sarah Goldberg and Harriet Waddingham and Juno Temple and Alex Borstein and Hannah Einbinder, like, they're all killers. I just, my pick would be Molly Shannon. Does anyone else have a pick in supporting actress? Something really
tough one.
Amy Ryan, Only Murders in the Building.
Yeah, the one who I have the furthest down in our odds that I have in that is previous nominee Maren Henkel for Marvel.
That's who I have too.
Yeah, I've her in mine as well, actually.
Can you imagine her missing out? Oh my God.
I'm surprised. I'm looking at my predictions. I'm surprised I don't have Cheryl Lee Ralph from Abbott Elementary.
Right. Yeah.
Who's the principal on the show? What's her name? I can't remember.
Janelle something. No, that's not Janelle James. Not Janelle James.
Oh God, it's killing me.
Yeah. Oh, hang on. Oh my God. Let's someone else talk about something else while we look. I don't know who you're talking about. Are you talking about Hacks?
No, I'm talking about Abbott Elementary.
Abbott Elementary.
Oh, okay. Oh, Cheryl Lee Ralph? No, we already said that.
Oh, Janelle James. Yeah, Janelle James.
Oh, I was right.
Okay. So, and anyone else before we move on, because we could have a 40-minute chat just about supporting categories, and we just simply don't have time.
I can't think of anybody else in that category.
In supporting actor, that hurts my brain, because, like, you could just fill it up with Ted Lasso and Barry and Hacks, but I think that obviously David Hyde Pierce is a huge favorite of the Emmys from Julia, and I have a feeling he'll be in there. And other than that, I just think it's Ted Lasso, Barry, and Hacks. Does anyone else have any?
I think Tony Shalhoub.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
He's an Emmy favorite. I also think Bowen Yang from SNL has a really good shot at getting
Island out right now,
especially with Fire Island out. And I think Brian Tyree Henry from Atlanta. When you talk about the comedic aspect of that show, it's always Paperboy.
True.
But I do think that this is going to be a very heavy Barry and Ted Lasso category.
Yeah, I agree, which will be a real crime if Ben Schwartz doesn't get in for the after party.
Yeah.
For me, that was the supporting comedy performance of the year. He has a musical episode. He's so much fun. It was just like, he gets to do so much stuff there. That was very quintessential supporting comedy performance. I'm currently predicting him, but I do think because of all the Barry and
Yeah.
Ted Lasso of it all, it's going to be quite hard for him to crack in there. But if he doesn't, I'll be very upset because I think he's phenomenal
so
in that
right.
season.
I'm so glad you raised that. That's what I mean. We just need those little shout outs. And I would also add Jay Duplass from Chair. I just thought he was phenomenal. But yeah, this is Barry, Ted Lasso, even Hacks. You've got like Paul Downs and Carl Clemens Hopkins alone would just take up 2 of the 6 slots. Like that's insane.
I also think you have some contenders from the network shows. I think like, Tyler James Williams from Abbott Elementary. I think Brendan Scott James from Ghosts, who is so funny on that show.
Yeah.
He's also great in the other 2.
It is so great in the other 2. But
oh my gosh,
it's again comedy, embarrassment of riches.
I mean, you also have a winner in the guest acting category a couple of years ago, Luke Kirby from Marvelous Mrs. Maisel.
Yes.
I would also say, more than in the lead category, What We Do in the Shadows has a really good day. Harvey Gillen could very well get into here as well.
True.
Yeah.
And
so wouldn't. Oh, sorry, no, go wrong.
I know. I was just also going to mention Andre Braugher has been
Yeah.
the only nominee from Brooklyn Nine-Nine forever, and maybe he'll be there again.
That's who I was going to say.
Really?
That's just what I was going to say. Also, Taika Waititi could get in for Our Flag Means Death for playing Blackbeard. So yeah, there's some buzz behind that show, or buzz behind him for Thor.
I hope we see that happening. Anyway, guys, thanks a lot. We'll be back for more chats in a second.